Developing right now on Morning News Now, the expanding urgent manhunt. The FBI now asking the public for help in finding this person of interest in the assassination of Charlie Kirk.
We are exhausting every lead. We are investing everything we have into this, and we will catch this individual.
Investigators sharing this video of the suspect making his escape from the roof and revealing they found the rifle used and other key evidence at the scene as they search around the clock for the gunman. Meanwhile, newly obtained emails are shedding light this morning on convicted sex offender Jeffrey Epstein's relationships with those closest to him, and the man accused of plotting the assassination attempt on President Trump at his golf course last year, defending himself as witness testimony in his trial gets underway. Plus, Hollywood stars taking a stand. The thousands of stars and workers signing a pledge to not work with Israeli film institutions over the war with Gaza. And gotta cash 'em all? How some Pokemon cards are seeing a massive return on investment. We're going to tell you what you need to know if you've got a book of those in a closet somewhere to test off. Good morning. I'm Savannah Sellers. Joe is on assignment, and Christine Romans will join us shortly. But happy Friday. We made it to the end of the week. We are going to begin this morning with that widening manhunt for the gunman who assassinated conservative activist Charlie Kirk at a college event in Utah. The state's governor now suggesting he will push for the death penalty in this case. The FBI says they've recovered a rifle in a wooded area near that site of the shooting. It was at Utah Valley University. Well, they're offering a $100,000 reward for information leading to an arrest. Officials released this surveillance video we just showed you. They say that it shows the person they believe to be the gunman running and then jumping off a building right after Kirk was shot. They also shared these photos of a person of interest wearing a dark, long-sleeve shirt with what appears to be an American flag and an eagle on the chest.
Here you see the suspect after dropping off the building. He moved around across this grassy area, around the parking lot. After he crosses the street, this is where he moves over into the wooded area. This is the video evidence that we utilize to track his movements and to locate that firearm in that wooded area.
Speaking at a 9/11 memorial event yesterday, President Trump said he plans to award Kirk with the Presidential Medal of Freedom.
Our prayers are with his wonderful wife, Eric, and his beautiful children. I'm pleased to announce that I will soon be awarding Charlie Kirk posthumously the Presidential Medal of Freedom. The date of the ceremony will be announced, and I can only guarantee you one thing, that we will have a very big crowd.
Yesterday, vigils honoring Kirk's life were held in cities across the country as well. We have retired FBI agent Rob D'Amico standing by with analysis of the investigation and where it goes from here. First, though, let's go to NBC News national correspondent Aaron Gilchrist. He is on the ground now in Utah with the very latest for us. Aaron, good morning. So let's talk about these breakthroughs that we've started to hear about from law enforcement. This video we have played several times. The pretty clear photos of the suspect and of what he was wearing. What details do we have this morning about the alleged shooter and also that weapon that they've recovered?
Well, this video, Savannah, really is the biggest thing, the most recent thing that's been released by officials here in Utah, with the expectation that if they get these images out in front of the public, it might help to jog somebody's memory. So the video you're seeing here is the suspect jumping off the roof of the building that one of the buildings that surrounds a courtyard here on campus. That courtyard is where Charlie Kirk was holding his event with about 3,000 people in attendance. And the video shows the shooter running across the grassy area here and then slowing down, it looks like, when he notices a car going by. As you might imagine, there were people who were at the event not very far from the street that you're seeing there who would have been running in that direction, and the cars that were leaving. And so he was trying to blend in, and officials said he did a good job of that. They say he was a college-aged person, the person of interest, the photos that they released earlier yesterday. They said that he was a college-aged person. And then they put out these images. There were 2 rounds of pictures that came out yesterday. The second round, we were told, had been edited a little bit to make them more clear. And you can see in these images the T-shirt that he's wearing with the American flag on it. Looks like an American eagle as well. The hat is, excuse me, very clear. And again, the hope is that the public will see these images and that if they recognize him, or for folks who may know him, they will then call in to the FBI or state police here and make that information known. We were told that there have been about 200 tips already called in as a part of this investigation. Yesterday, we were told that there were some good leads that they were following. Some of them didn't pan out, but the investigation, of course, Savannah, continues.
Aaron, also we saw Vice President J.D. Vance and his wife. They accompanied Kirk's body as it was transferred to Arizona yesterday. They made a trip there right away. What do we now know about plans for his funeral? Who will be in attendance?
You know, I think it's worth noting that Vice President Vance and Charlie Kirk may have been political allies, but they were also close friends over many years of sort of working together in the political space since the vice president first ran for Senate. And you see in the video here, J.D. Vance acting as a pallbearer as the casket was carried on to Air Force 2 here in Utah and then taken to Arizona, where Charlie Kirk is from. We know that his family and close friends were also on the plane with the vice president yesterday, making that return trip to Arizona. At this point, we don't yet know exactly when a funeral service will be held, although President Trump indicated that he would be attending that funeral. He said it would be next weekend. We don't have a firm date and time for that, but the president, we know now, will be there. Savannah.
So, Aaron, there has just been such a huge response to this on both sides of the aisles. We have heard from lawmakers. There's been questions kind of about whether the shooting will ultimately, will it lead to more polarization, or maybe does this start to turn the temperature down? Does this feel like some type of turning point? What are we hearing in Washington? And also, what are lawmakers saying about taking safety precautions themselves in light of this act of political violence at a speaking engagement just on a college campus?
Yeah, you know, across the board, we did hear immediate condemnation of political violence from both sides of the aisle after Charlie Kirk was shot the other day. And since then, we've heard lawmakers talking about the need for greater security, increasing their own security, canceling public events or trying to move events that were originally planned to be outside, moving those events inside. We have also, on a couple of occasions now, heard President Trump talk about what happened to Charlie Kirk. I want to play a little bit of sound from yesterday and the president, what he said about political violence and events that have been happening around the country.
I'm really concerned for our country. We have a great country. We have a radical left group of lunatics out there, just absolute lunatics, and we're going to get that problem solved. I'm only concerned for the country.
Now, the shooter's motives in this case remain unknown at this point, but President Trump, of course, they're leaning into language that he's used on many occasions before to describe some politicians on the left and some of their followers on the left. But it's worth noting, too, Savannah, that some of the rhetoric that we've heard from President Trump, of course, we know he's been accused on more than one occasion of sort of fanning the flames of some of the political aggression that we've seen at points throughout the time that he's been in office, the second time, and even during the campaign, Savannah.
All right. Aaron Gilchrist reporting from Utah for us. Thank you so much. I want to bring in retired FBI agent Rob D'Amico for analysis of the investigation. Rob, good morning. So, I mean, the FBI actually says they've received 7,000 leads, tips from the public. That's actually the most since the Boston Marathon bombing. As though time goes by, right, we know this investigation can get tougher. Now it's been quite some time since the attack actually happened. And then on the other hand, we have quite clear images of this person. What do you make sort of this mosaic that's coming together of the investigation right now? Do you think they're close to catching this person, or is it almost like an overwhelming amount of information now from the public?
It's not overwhelming. They were overwhelmed during the Boston bombing, and then they tightened up their technical procedures to bring that much video in. They're starting to use AI to look at the video. It's really important that they got that detailed shot of his T-shirt because it allows people on their phones, wait a second, that picture I have is that shirt, and it allows them to identify him. If they don't know him, they can look through that, or, hey, I saw that guy. But the video of him escaping is really important. If you look at it, it is a well-planned escape, and he's actually somewhat fairly calm. and doing it, which means to me he did reconnaissance of this. He was up on that roof. He knew where he could jump down. He knew where he could run, and he ran into the woods. And assumingly, he finally got to the vehicle. What that allows him to do now is go back and look at tape of those cameras that they had. He sometime before that was at that location looking at all those. And the same with all the Ring cameras and such in the neighborhood. They don't have a car yet, but if they find a week ago he went and he was on that building, they can go to those people with those cameras that caught him this time running through the neighborhood and into the woods, and they can say, can you look back 2 weeks ago, trying to link him up with a vehicle? They can also then look at cellular data. When the event happened, there's 3,000 cell phones there. They have all that information, but they have to weed through it. If they know a week ago he was there and there weren't that many people there, they can take out everyone else, figure out which one's his phone, and then now start tracking it electronically. So there's a lot that they can do in just that video, figuring it out. They got his palm print when he was climbing down. They're obviously doing DNA and the same thing on the weapon. So there's a lot of information coming from that one video alone.
It's so interesting to hear you put it that way, because I think for our untrained eyes, it often is like, okay, well, it gives you a piece of information, a timeline, but it's so far away from him. Does it tell you much? But actually, you're saying it tells you quite a bit.
Absolutely. And people don't understand their digital exhaust. They don't even, and even if he didn't have the phone with him on the day of the event, so he knew better to bring his phone with him. Again, looking back, they're going to find out when he reconnoitered that place. He was there before. He looked at that roof. He looked at how he's going to get down. He looked at the neighborhood he was going to run from. That wasn't just a panic withdrawal from that shooting. That was planned. It was fairly calm. He knew that that perimeter. He knew where he's going, so he was there before.
Also, Rob, officials said that, of course, we now know, we've been talking about one of the big breakthroughs we've heard from them is that they actually found this weapon. They were calling it a high-powered bolt-action rifle. Does that particular detail, or the fact that he fled the scene, carried the rifle for some time, and then left it in the woods, tell you anything about the shooter?
The bolt action, that's the rifle I was figuring, just because of the distance of the shot and how it was done. The 30-06 is a heavier round, unlike, say, people started talking about an AR-15. That round could do that, but it's very light. There's windy there. So a bolt-action rifle made more sense to me. It's actually a magazine-fed, but bolt-action where they rack it. There's maybe 5 rounds in a magazine, I believe, is what they described. So it's a hunting rifle, though. I truly, believe that was probably the weapon of choice. The fact that he carried it to one point and then dropped it, I think he probably felt that wherever he was going next, that rifle, and I think he had it in a towel, it was hard to see, but it was still something. That rifle was a liability to the rest of his escape. I would assume he probably knew that they were going to find it eventually. He might have wiped it down from prints or something like that. So he definitely, again, the fact that he did all this reconnaissance meant he was probably researching things on the internet, knowing to wipe the rifle down, but they're still going to find something off it. But it does connect him to the actual crime. They're going to take the bullet either from Mr. Kirk or in the area behind it. They're going to find that. They're going to be able to match it to the rifle. And then his DNA is going to match to that rifle, his fingerprints, his DNA. A lot of times, even if they wipe the rifle down, when they were loading that magazine a few days ago, they don't realize their thumbprints on it. We used to get bombers in Iraq all the time. They leave their thumbprints on the tape that they put inside a device, and then we would get them that way.
Rob D'Amico, we always appreciate your analysis. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Well, in a federal courtroom in Florida, witness testimony began in the trial of the man accused in the assassination attempt on President Trump at his golf course last year. Well, in opening statements, prosecutors revealed that Ryan Ruth, while allegedly armed with a rifle, got even closer to the president than was previously known. NBC News correspondent Jesse Kirsch has the details.
Defending himself, Ryan Ruth came face to face with the former Secret Service agent who spotted him in a sniper hide, allegedly waiting to assassinate President Trump. Robert Furcano revealing that while then-candidate Trump played golf in South Florida last September, Ruth was closer to the Republican presidential nominee than previously known, just one hole away. Furcano testifying he spotted Ruth and a rifle barrel pointed directly at my face, testifying I feared for the life of the president. Furcano says that's when he fired at Ruth, who did not shoot back. Then Ruth questioned Furcano, who prosecutors credit with saving the president's life. Is it good to be alive? Asked the defendant. Furcano responding, yes, it feels good to be alive.
Walk straight back!
Prosecutors say Ruth fled the scene, but not before witness Tommy McGee spotted him driving off. As Ruth cross-examined McGee, the questioning quickly went off the rails. At one point, Ruth gave McGee a thumbs up, saying, "You're the man. Good job." The day began in similarly bizarre fashion. In his opening statement, Ruth spoke about Hitler, Putin, Iran, and Israel instead of focusing on the facts of the case. He was supposed to have roughly 40 minutes to speak, but the judge cut him off after only about 5.
All right, Jesse, thank you. Well, the political fight over documents related to convicted sex offender Jeffrey Epstein continues in Congress. But thousands of emails sent and received by Epstein over a 2-decade span have been obtained by Bloomberg News, they say. Well, they shed light on his relationship with convicted co-conspirator Ghislaine Maxwell. Now, NBC News has not independently obtained or verified those emails. News Now anchor Hallie Jackson has the details.
New insight into the relationship between Jeffrey Epstein and Ghislaine Maxwell from a trove of purported emails, more than 18,000 published by Bloomberg News, which suggests Maxwell and Epstein were closer in many respects than either publicly admitted. In her July interview with the Deputy Attorney General, Maxwell, Epstein's convicted co-conspirator, recounts asking Epstein about the initial investigation into him.
He said, not to worry. He didn't say, he didn't share. I wasn't part of it at all.
The Bloomberg report suggests she counseled Epstein after that. At one point, he asked her advice on what charge to negotiate in his 2008 plea agreement. I suppose lewd and lascivious conduct, she responded. NBC News has not independently obtained or verified the emails. Bloomberg says they were authenticated using cryptographic and metadata analysis and corroboration with external sources. The outlet says one email included a detailed spreadsheet of 2,000 gifts and payments, like, quote, lingerie and chocolates, some for teenage girls who later lodged sexual abuse complaints. Except for 3 minor instances, Bloomberg says the emails do not otherwise mention President Trump, who has said his relationship with Epstein ended in the early 2000s. The White House calling it, in part, stupid fake news. Maxwell's attorney has not responded to NBC's request for comment. And for the first time, revelations Maxwell and Epstein were going through a fertility treatment together, according to Bloomberg, years after she said they broke up. In 2005, Bloomberg says Maxwell emailed Epstein detailed instructions on a sperm donation, adding, "You can do the sample at home."
All right, our thanks to Hallie for that report. Well, NBC News White House correspondent Monica Alba joins us with more on this. Monica, good morning. So these new revelations here, they come after President Trump continues to deny he wrote this lewd letter to Epstein as part of a book compiled for Epstein's 50th birthday. This made news a while ago. It made news again this week. The president was mentioned in only a handful of these particular emails that Bloomberg says they've obtained. But how much more pressure do you think these emails put on the White House? What are the concerns here that these are now out there with a news outlet?
Well, Savannah, I think this really just shows that this is not going away for the White House, that this is an issue, the Epstein controversy overall, that the White House will continue to have to engage on, answer questions on, that the president will be pressed on. And that is just a fact of this situation as it currently stands. And it's also because the White House is the one saying that they want to pursue more transparency. They knew that when Congress was going to come back into session, there were going to be more documents, more information that was going to come out. And they're bracing for even the possibility of more of that to come in the next few weeks and months. Again, this is something that isn't going away, that the White House has acknowledged. And even if they try to dismiss it themselves in some of these statements, it's their own allies, it's their own supporters in many cases who still want more information to come out. Savannah.
And Monica, President Trump called the Epstein case a dead issue in a phone interview that was just earlier this week with NBC News, but there still continues, of course, to be fallout over the case. We're discussing it right now. We've actually also learned that Britain's ambassador to the United States, his name's Peter Mandelson, he was fired yesterday due to his ties to Epstein. What more can you tell us about this?
Yeah, and this is something that did come out in that so-called birthday book that you were talking about, because there was information there from the former British ambassador. And this is someone who had ties to him that were previously known, but even more information has now come out. So the British Prime Minister dismissed him, and it comes at a time when the President and the First Lady are scheduled to go to the UK next week for a state visit. So you can imagine that is something that also may be part of the headlines overall heading into that visit. But this was a situation where, again, there are other people, other information that could come out who could have a similar situation where something that comes out that had previously been contained becomes a far bigger deal because of how close some of these high-powered people were to Jeffrey Epstein. Savannah.
Monica, before I let you go, I do want to ask you about something over on Capitol Hill. Senate Republicans, they're essentially changing the rules in an effort to speed up President Trump's nominees for some of these key roles in the executive branch. I'm hoping you can walk us through this. They've triggered what's the so-called nuclear option. What exactly does that mean? How does that plan work?
It's interesting because this is something that Republicans have talked about for some time. This is really an effort to try to get dozens of nominees through at the same time. So in a block, instead of having to be considered individually. Now, we're not talking about people like cabinet secretaries or judicial nominees. This would be below that. These are people in agencies below the top level, and some of the other ambassadors, for instance, who could be potentially now lumped together and voted on, again, en masse. And this is something that Republicans are pushing for, because there are some nominees right now that have been held up in the process that haven't been able to get through, and the Trump administration would really like to see them get through. But the question that this poses is now, if this is something that is used, this could be used then by future presidents. It could be used by future parties that control the Senate. So, for instance, Democrats, if they win that back. So the question is raised about whether this is something that would be permanent, would be now set as a precedent or not. And there were some who raised objections to this because, again, this is not how it has been done traditionally in the past. Savannah.
Monica, covering a lot for us. Thank you so much. Let's get you over to weather now. It has been a very wet week. If you are in Florida, you know that. And the week is ending with even more rain. Let's get a closer look at what to expect this weekend here with our forecast from Michelle Grossman. Hi, Michelle. Good morning.
Hi, Savannah. Great to see you. And yes, we have that stalled front that is draped over Florida. We're going to continue to see heavy showers, some downpours, and the ground is already so saturated. So we're going to see some flooding conditions. That is in the state of Florida. Then also watching some showers and storms throughout the Intermountain West, throughout the northern plains as well. Could see some gusty thunderstorms with any of those storms. So this is what it looks like in Florida. The front stalled over Florida. We're looking at those scattered showers and storms from Daytona to Miami, so portions of southern Florida. We're going to see that once again tomorrow. It's going to be more isolated, but still scattered in nature. And we're looking at anywhere from 1 to even 3 inches of rain in some spot. So as we go throughout today, we're looking at strong storms in the northern plains. We're looking at sunny and mild conditions in portions of the mid-Atlantic, and also the Northeast and into portions of the Tennessee Valley. Lots of sunshine there, and we're looking at some really warm conditions. It's going to feel like summer there. The severe threat in parts of, in portions of the northern plains, we're looking at winds gusting up to 60 miles per hour. Could see some hail also, and that's going to extend into parts of the southwestern states. There's that big area of high pressure. That's going to pump in some really warm air. So we're looking at temperatures into the 80s and also into the 90s. We're looking at temperatures 5, 10, even 15 degrees above what is typical for this time of year. So Omaha, 91 degrees today. That's well above normal for this time of year. Jackson, we're looking at 94, 95 in Dallas, and we're looking at 78 degrees in Cleveland. Tomorrow, still really warm. Temperatures into the 80s and 90s once again. Kansas City looking at temperatures into the 90s. That is 15 degrees above what is typical for this time of year. Little Rock into the mid-90s. Alexandria, same story. And we're going to keep that warmth in place over the weekend also. So that's another big weather story. We're holding on to summer a little bit longer. As we head into the weekend, pool weather throughout portions of the eastern part of the nation, the mid-Atlantic, the Northeast, into the Tennessee Valley. Notice those showers holding on strong in Florida on Saturday. And then we have a flood risk throughout portions of the Southwest, suburban areas of the Intermountain West, and then into the northern plains. We're going to see those showers and storms continuing not only today, but tomorrow into Sunday as well. Savannah?
All right, Michelle, thank you so much. We'll see you in a little bit. There's much more to come here on Morning News Now. Later this hour, blockbuster merger, the bid Paramount is preparing to make to become one of the biggest companies in media. Up first, though, landmark conviction, the prison sentence Brazil's president is facing. That and more international news next. Welcome back. Several stars and filmmakers in Hollywood are signing an open letter to take a stand against the war in Gaza. So far, more than 4,000 people have signed that letter. It's called Film Workers for Palestine. They are pledging not to work with Israeli film institutions that have been, quote, implicated in genocide and apartheid against the Palestinian people. Well, some of the signatures include award-winning big names like director Ava DuVernay and then actors Emma Stone, Mark Ruffalo, Joaquin Phoenix, Rooney Mara, Andrew Garfield. We have NBC News tech and culture reporter Angela Yang with us on this. Angela, always great to have you with us. Thanks for being up early with us. Good morning. So this pledge, it states specifically here that people who signed it, they are refusing to work with institutions, not individual Israelis. Can you kind of define that a little bit for us and tell us about what else it says?
Yeah, absolutely. So the pledge explicitly does say that it is calling on film professionals to refuse to work with Israeli film indications that specifically are, quote, implicated in genocide and apartheid against the Palestinian people, whether that means working with a government that is committing these things or otherwise being complicit. And so it's a movement inspired by a very similar pledge from 1987 when film directors refused to screen their films in apartheid South Africa. And so the pledge says that in this moment, where many filmmakers' own governments are enabling Israel's actions in Gaza, they themselves feel an obligation to address what they view as complicity.
There's this sort of line, right, Angela, that so many public people are facing when it comes to kind of voicing anything here. In fact, many people in Hollywood who previously voiced concerns in this way over Palestinian human rights have been met with backlash. Like some examples, I'm thinking of director Jonathan Glazer, the popular kids content creator Miss Rachel. They were accused of anti-Semitism. Tell us about people taking a stand anyway and kind of what that balance has looked like here.
Right. So over the past few years, the attention on Israel's actions in Gaza has eroded actually a lot of the longstanding support that it previously enjoyed in the U.S. and Europe. And Israel has denied that it's committing genocide, but this military campaign is now so well documented online that people's humanitarian concerns are increasingly difficult to refute. And that's why this pledge states that speaking out is a, quote, profound moral duty that none of us can ignore.
How have you seen the tone change in Hollywood and beyond?
Yeah, there's been a dramatic shift in public opinion. Surveys show that support for Israel has plummeted over the past year or so, especially among younger and politically left-leaning people. And so previously, speaking out in support of Palestinians would almost certainly garner institutional backlash. And that backlash still persists. But now public figures appear to be more comfortable calling out Israel's actions because they know that they will at least be insulated by public support.
All right. Angela, thank you very much for joining us on this. Let's get you more international news now. Brazil's Supreme Court just handed former President Bolsonaro a historic prison sentence after an attempt to hang on to power. Matt Bodner joins us now with that and more world news in 60 seconds. Hey, Matt, good morning.
Savannah, good morning. Bolsonaro was sentenced Thursday to more than 27 years in prison. The right-wing populist was convicted of plotting a coup to remain in power after losing the 2022 election. The decision was made by a panel of 5 justices on Brazil's Supreme Court. Bolsonaro, for the record, is 70 years old. Moving along now to South Korea, the more than 300 South Korean workers detained and deported by ICE this week have returned to Seoul. The week-long ordeal has strained political and business ties with South Korea, a key U.S. ally. The workers were detained in a massive raid on a Hyundai facility in Georgia. Authorities said that they were investigating claims of unlawful employment practices. And we'll wrap up this hour in Paris. A lost masterpiece believed to be painted by Peter Paul Rubens has been discovered in a Parisian mansion and is now set to go up for auction. The auctioneer responsible for finding the work said that he came across it last year while looking through the mansion before the mansion itself was sold. He says the work was painted by Rubens at the height of his talent. Back to you.
Wow, that is so cool. We love a lost art piece. Thank you very much, Matt. Well, coming up, goodbye to dyes, how one of the largest food and drink brands is removing artificial colors, those dyes, from its products. What this pressure from the FDA to remove dyes means for the rest of the food industry. That's coming up next. Welcome back. Let's take a look now at how one of the world's largest food and drink brands is removing artificial coloring. It comes as the federal government is pressuring companies to make that change. NBC News daily anchor and consumer investigative correspondent, our friend Vicky Nguyen, went behind the scenes at PepsiCo for an exclusive look on how they're dropping those artificial dyes.
Two of America's favorite snacks are getting a revamp.
So in this jar is the super secret formula to the new Dorito?
This is the formula that we're working on.
Right now, Doritos and Cheetos get their bright colors from artificial dyes that the FDA and Health Secretary Robert F. Kennedy Jr. want the food industry to phase out by the end of next year. So Justin French and his team at the PepsiCo headquarters in Plano, Texas, are recreating their iconic orange with colorful vegetables and spices.
Here you have a combination of natural colors like beets, radishes, paprika, annatto, turmeric.
You can't just take this red and substitute it for this red.
You can't.
He says it's tricky using colors from crops. It's harder to keep them consistent. Mother Nature can affect supply, and the natural ingredients can change the taste. We had a rare chance to try the prototypes.
What are we looking at here?
This is Cheetos that we sell in market today. It is made with artificial color, and this one is a natural color, and this is a no-color version.
These two look virtually identical.
And the flavors were pretty spot on.
It tastes the same to me. I cannot tell the difference.
But to really put my taste buds to the test, we headed to the Sensory and Consumer Experience Room.
Ooh, red lights.
Where PepsiCo asked consumers for feedback on hundreds of products.
We need to understand if appearance is going to drive a difference.
So these are crunchy Cheetos with this red light on. Absolutely cannot tell the difference.
So I tried both.
It's really hard to tell the difference in flavor. Based on my expertise, I'm going to say this is the original Flamin' Hot, and this may be the natural or no color Flamin' Hot. Let's get our moment of truth here. Ah!
Left is natural, the right is the current product.
Clearly, I am not a super taster. I got it wrong.
PepsiCo joins companies like Kraft Heinz, General Mills, and Nestle, pledging to remove artificial dyes from their products. The FDA says most children have no adverse effects when consuming foods containing color additives, but some evidence suggests certain children may be sensitive to them.
Do you think this is a step in the right direction, that companies are switching out artificial dyes for natural dyes or no dyes at all?
I do think it's a move in the right direction. Consumers are becoming much more aware about how the food we put into our bodies impact our health, but it's not the whole story, right? We need to think about a healthy, balanced diet. There's no replacement for that.
We talk to thousands of consumers every week.
Denise Lefebvre is PepsiCo's Senior Vice President of Global Foods Research and Development.
Will consumers have to pay more for naturally colored chips?
Well, we are working on that today, but I would tell you that we are going to work really hard to mitigate all those costs.
She says the company's making moves across its portfolio to satisfy customer taste.
Huge changes, but with all the flavor and taste that consumers love.
Vicky Nguyen, NBC News.
All right, this morning we're bringing you a major update to a story we brought you a few weeks ago. A suburban Chicago community has been fighting for a pair of brothers with the same debilitating genetic disorder. One was approved for a game-changing treatment. The other was denied. NBC News correspondent Maggie Vespa shows us how the community rallied together to give both brothers a chance to beat the odds.
Two brothers battling the same devastating disease just want the same medicine. It's why 9-year-old Noah Small on the right pleaded 10-year-old Hunter's case to the family's insurance company, mailing this letter last week.
You have a copy of the letter here. Would you mind reading it to me?
Yeah. Dear Blue Cross Blue Shield Federal, I'm writing to ask you to accept my brother Hunter for gene therapy. I received gene therapy in March. Now I am able to swim and learn how to ride my bike. At recess, I can be more active and score touchdowns.
Growing up outside Chicago with their oldest brother Carter and parents William and Allison, Noah and Hunter both suffer from Duchenne muscular dystrophy, or DMD, a rare genetic disorder that progressively attacks a person's muscles, leaving most children wheelchair-bound by age 12 with an average life expectancy under 30. You can already see the effects on Hunter's legs, his larger calves layered with scar tissue.
How does it make you feel?
Tired a lot?
It makes you feel tired a lot?
There's nothing that you can do.
Last month, Nightly News spoke with the family about their efforts to get Elevidys, a one-time dose gene therapy that has been shown to slow DMD's progress. The cost, $3.2 million. Noah was approved for coverage, receiving the treatment earlier this year. Doctors initially hesitated with Hunter to make sure his heart, which had been impacted by DMD, was strong enough. They soon signed off. But when we first met the family...
Your insurance company is denying one son. Correct. The same treatment your other son has received and seems to be thriving after receiving.
Correct. Yes, it's baffling.
Their insurer, Blue Cross Blue Shield's federal employee program, denied coverage for Hunter twice. Blue Cross Blue Shield declined to discuss the specific case, citing patient privacy, saying its decisions are guided by nationwide best practices for care, helping to identify what has proven successful for members in the past. 2 weeks after our initial story, we followed the brothers back to school where, because their legs tire easily, they use elevators and scooters. Their fellow classmates launched a letter-writing campaign to get Hunter the treatment.
They had very strong opinions. I'm not happy about this. This doesn't sound right.
The family saying after filing yet another appeal, Blue Cross Blue Shield told them this week Hunter's treatment had been approved. The news still setting in for Hunter.
You're getting the medicine?
Yeah.
Yeah. Are you excited?
Yeah.
His parents now scrambling to schedule his gene therapy appointment as soon as possible, grateful for the groundswell.
I even had somebody stop at our door the other day, said, I saw the piece on NBC. I have ideas for you.
And I think it really shows the good in the world, I almost say, that every little bit you can make a difference.
It's going to give them a better quality of life for a longer period of time. So that's why we fought so hard.
Two brothers with a village behind them now getting the same fighting chance. Maggie Vespa, NBC News, Winnetka, Illinois.
Such important stories. I'm so proud of that series, Cost of Denial.
Seriously.
It's just really...
I mean, what a real difference it's having in the
Absolutely.
world. Oh, we're so happy for them.
All right, coming up, cashing in on collectibles.
Yeah, the return on investment you could see from your, get this, Pokemon collection. The numbers are going to shock you. Stick around. You're watching Morning News Now.
I swear I threw a bunch of it away. And we're back with a potential blockbuster of a merger involving some of the biggest brands in the media.
That is right. Paramount Skydance, they're preparing to make a bid to buy Warner Brothers Discovery. This is according to a source familiar with the matter, and the news led to stocks of both the companies surging yesterday.
CNBC media reporter Alex Sherman joins us now with more on this. Alex, good morning. We understand Paramount Skydance is working with an investment bank as it prepares for this offer. Walk us through some of your reporting. Why is Paramount looking to add to its portfolio, and why now?
Yeah, so what I can tell you is that, look, it's only been a couple months since Skydance closed its own deal for Paramount, which was a deal that had been lasting 18 months or so. Now it's turning around, and the leadership of this new company, which of course is David Ellison, the son of Larry Ellison, is interested in growing his empire leaps and bounds. This would be an enormous deal if it does go forward. The market cap of Warner Brothers Discovery is currently about $40 billion. You can tack on another $30 billion or so of net debt to that. So we're talking about something that would be in the range of a $70 billion deal. I mean, that is orders of magnitude bigger than the Paramount Skydance deal. So it is a little bit of empire building from the Ellison standpoint. Warner Brothers Discovery has not received a bid yet, I'm told, although it could come as soon as next week.
Wow. You just mentioned this. I mean, it's not even been 2 months since the Trump administration approved that prior merger, Paramount and Skydance Media, $8 billion there. Also, viewers might remember kind of the drama surrounding the $16 million settlement over Mr. Trump's lawsuit against 60 Minutes involved here. Would the Trump administration play as big a role in this new merger? Do we see this being approved?
Well, superficially, you would think that the Trump administration would play a much bigger deal in this role because the deal itself is much larger than what Paramount Skydance was. But given that Paramount just bought Skydance and had to go through these sort of twists and turns, like you said, pay off a settlement that some considered sort of extortion money to the Trump administration in order for Skydance to buy Paramount, perhaps you would come to the conclusion that the hard work has already been done, in essence. I mean, again, historically, there would be regulatory issues around putting these two movie studios together, Paramount and Warner Brothers. They're two of the largest movie studios in the country, in the world. There aren't that many movie studios. So as analysts have looked at this deal, which, by the way, has been speculated for many years. I mean, I went back, I wrote about a Paramount Warner Brothers Discovery merger in 2023, in 2021. I found a New York Times article in 2010 talking about a merger of these two companies. So strategically, it makes quite a bit of sense, but the holdup always was this movie studio merger. In a Trump administration, given that maybe politics trumps sort of historical regulatory antitrust concerns of putting assets together, it may not be a big a deal. And look, the most important thing about this deal is that you have to see it in the context of the new modern world. So maybe putting two movie studios together against Netflix, against Amazon, against YouTube, against Apple, these behemoth companies that have trillion-dollar assets, is no longer the same deal it would have been 10, 20 years ago.
You know, I can remember maybe 15 years ago, talk in the cable world of like, wouldn't a CBS, CNN combination make a lot of sense? And, you know, you're right. So that these names and pieces have been in play, but we're talking about these two big companies together. This isn't Paramount Skydance wanting a piece of the cable piece of Warner Discovery. So wait, what could it all mean for viewers, Alex? What could be some of the first differences people see if this goes through? Might they have to spin off something or divest anything?
It's certainly possible. Again, that will be up to the Trump administration regulatory regime, assuming that this bid is in fact accepted by Warner Brothers Discovery. It's worth pointing out sort of before I answer the viewer question, the why this is happening now. Warner Brothers Discovery actually said a few months ago that it plans on splitting its company into two, sending off the cable networks in one direction and keeping the movie studio and HBO in the other half of the company. So if Paramount Skydance wants the entire thing, they need to hurry a bid. They need to bid now for this company before it spins off in the second half of 2026. So that's why we're seeing this now. From a viewer standpoint, I think it's very much a wait and see in terms of, are there sort of mergers between CBS and CNN? Is there any editorial difference? We just don't know yet.
Alex, thank you. Fascinating one. Big talker since yesterday. We appreciate your time.
Plot thickens. We'll watch that one. More financial headlines now. The DOJ is taking Uber to court over claims it turned away riders with disabilities.
CNBC's Silvana Henao joins us with that and other money news this morning. Hey, Silvana.
Savannah, Christine, good morning to you. Yeah, so the Justice Department is suing Uber for allegedly discriminating against disabled riders, and the complaint says drivers routinely refuse to serve people with disabilities, including those who travel with service animals or stowable wheelchairs. So the government also says Uber illegally charges cleaning fees for service animals and cancellation fees to riders who are denied service. In a statement, Uber says it disagrees with the allegations and it's committed to expanding access and improving the experience for disabled riders. Apple says the hypertension detection system for the Apple Watch will be available next week after getting clearance from the FDA. Bloomberg reports the feature will use data from the watch's optical heart sensor, and it'll be to analyze how your blood vessels respond to heartbeats over a 30-day period. It will be added to the Apple Watch Series 9, 10, 11, Ultra 2, and 3. And the update comes as Apple expands its health offerings while it faces increased competition from the likes of Garmin, Samsung, and Aura. And Gmail is trying to make it easier to track what you buy online, adding a new purchases tab for the web and mobile devices. So when you click on the tab, it will only display emails related to your purchases, including order confirmations and shipping estimates. And this builds on Gmail's existing package tracking features on mobile, which show packages expected to arrive within the next 24 hours at the top of your inbox, guys.
I'm all for that. I mean,
Oh, me too.
That really makes a lot of sense.
It does. It really does.
Thank you, Gmail.
My Gmail is so
service.
scary.
Yeah.
It's such a mess. All right, Silvana, thank you so much. Let's stick with some financial news for you. There's a new investment strategy. I'd like to hear what Christine thinks about that. It's making some investors want to collect them all. And that's right, because whether you're trying to become a legendary Pokemon trainer or not, some people are using Pokemon cards to pad out their portfolios.
And while other cards have sold for millions of dollars, take a look at the first edition base set Holo Charizard?
Yeah,
Is that how you say it?
I think Charizard.
Charizard?
Yeah.
A few years ago, a mint condition version sold for $420,000, making it the third most expensive playable card in the world.
For more, let's bring in markets reporter for the Wall Street Journal, Crystal Hershey. Recently wrote an article on investing in Pokemon cards. I mean, it just has these surprising rates of return here. Crystal, good morning. It's great to have you with us. I mean, I think a lot of people, at least we were chatting about this. I'm thinking, like, is this like Beanie Babies 2.0, where like they stay in the garage for the rest of your life because one day they're going to be worth something? But you actually have some of these stats in here. They're nearly a 4,000% monthly cumulative return since 2004 on some of these. What determines how valuable something like this is? What's going on with these strong returns?
That's right. Pokemon cards have really become the crown jewel of everyday investors these days. They really caught fire during the pandemic when people were stuck at home. They didn't really have much to do, but they did have a lot of cash from government stimulus. So while you saw some traders stampeding into the stock market to spark the GameStop meme frenzy, you saw other traders scooping up Pokemon cards. And they really haven't stopped since, and that has sent prices surging in recent years. And so while Pokemon is the producer of these cards, the real action is actually in the resale market, where traders will buy and sell cards online, on social media, on marketplaces like TCG Player. And depending on how rare a card is or the grading that it gets from an authenticator, they can go for pennies or even thousands of dollars. I actually spoke with one investor who told me that he used his Pokemon card trading profits to buy his fiance a custom engagement ring with diamonds totaling 3.5 carats. So the gains can be really eye-popping.
You know, so you're telling me the returns in Pokemon cards is significantly outpaced the S&P 500, which is the boring investment the rest of us put our retirement into. How does investing in Pokemon cards compare to other assets and collectibles like, you know, baseball cards, Beanie Babies? Should we consider catching them all a viable investment option?
That's right. A lot of the people I spoke to for this article are actually stock investors themselves. They may have a retirement account or a brokerage account. And something that they emphasize to me over and over again is that the return on these cards has far outpaced that of the S&P 500 or even other high-flying big tech stocks like Meta Platforms. And so going back to that example you gave earlier, a sealed pack of Pokemon cards in the 90s probably would have gone for around $4. And one first edition Charizard card that you could have pulled from one of those packs currently goes for about $261,000 if you have one in near mint condition.
I wish you could show Christine's face. The number of these cards I've thrown away is just, I go on a mom frenzy.
The slack-jawed stare. She said that.
Did I throw that out?
Oh, my gosh.
I might have thrown it out.
Honestly, that would haunt me. I'm sorry to say. Very quickly.
Thank you for your support.
Very quickly, what are the risks, of course, with this, though?
Yes, there are definitely risks that could really burn investors. There's no standard market price for these cards, which can make their pricing pretty inconsistent. And the pricing also tends to be pretty subjective. So cards that feature Pokemon like Pikachu and Charizard can be worth a little bit more generally just because they're really loved by Pokemon fans. That being said, you might be wanting to search around your nightstand or your basement for some cards because they could be worth a lot of money.
Crystal, this was fascinating for me, anxiety-inducing for Christine.
Painful for me.
That's such an interesting one. Thank you so much. Great to have you with us.
Thank you.
All right, coming up, we are going to continue to honor fallen heroes after yesterday marked 24 years since the September 11th attacks.
Keeps asking me, she goes, I can't believe he did that. And it's funny because now we're all on a job and like, no, I absolutely can believe that he did that. Like, this is what we do. Like, we don't leave our guys, we stay.
How the next generation of New York City's firefighters are honoring their father's legacies next.
Finally, this hour, we are going to continue to honor our fallen heroes. Yesterday marked 24 years since the tragic terror attacks on September 11th.
Hundreds of first responders lost their lives that day trying to save victims from the rubble of those crumbling buildings and debris. Some of the sons of those brave men found a remarkable way to honor their fathers. NBC News correspondent Sam Brock has their story.
For a second time, stood still as a nation honored the thousands killed on September 11th and the bravery of those who responded from Lower Manhattan to Pennsylvania to our nation's capital, where President Trump attended a ceremony at the Pentagon. And for 3 members of the FDNY, all sons of fallen firefighters, every day is painful.
We, as a department, have that slogan of never forget, right? And it's not just never forget the guys, it's never forget the actions that they took. Never forget what they did that day.
Battalion Chief Chris Gansey, Lieutenant Chris Mascali, and firefighter Scott Larson all upended after their fathers tried to rescue victims in the rubble or in the towers.
I do remember being at my grandparents' house and just, like, he was supposed to come home that night. And it was about 5, 6, 7 o'clock, and, you know, everyone was starting to see, like, the writing on the wall, and it was a very emotional day for me.
My 13-year-old keeps asking me, she goes, I can't believe he did that. And it's funny because now we're all in a job and like, no, I absolutely can believe that he did that. Like, this is what we do. Like, we don't leave our guys, we stay. And he stayed.
For Mascali, the loss proved a call to action.
I go to work each day and I hold myself accountable because I know he would hold me accountable, right? And it's to serve and to be a part of this department.
We asked the trio about lessons for younger generations.
What I would say to them is, look at what happened in the days after 9/11, and look at how the United States and the country surrounded each other.
Would be a pretty good lesson for right now, wouldn't it?
Absolutely.
We're all people at the end of the day.
A shared humanity they say we should always remember, especially now. Sam Brock, NBC News, New York.
Oh, my goodness, what a moving story. Wow. Absolutely. Our thank you very much to Sam for that. And that's going to do it for this hour of Morning News Now.
The news continues right now.
Good morning. Happy Friday. We made it to the end of the week. I'm Savannah Sellers.
And I'm Christine Romans in for Joe today. Right now on Morning News Now, the urgent manhunt for the killer of conservative activist Charlie Kirk, now in its third day. New this morning, authorities releasing stunning video of the person they believe to be the shooter jumping off a campus rooftop near where Kirk was fatally shot before apparently fleeing into the woods. We've got much more on that investigation as lawmakers on Capitol Hill sound off on their own safety fears in the aftermath of it all. Plus, the string of violent threats that's put some of America's top colleges and universities on lockdown. Also this morning, on shaky ground, Qatar's prime minister speaking out against Israel, saying those recent military strikes targeting Hamas leaders in Doha have now killed any hope of a deal to bring those remaining hostages home. But is a ceasefire still within reach? Our Richard Engel has the latest. Plus, trouble down under, the American influencer under investigation by police in Australia over a now viral face-off with a saltwater croc, all caught on camera. And we're just a few short weeks away from October, so that means spooky season right around the corner. We've got some cost-saving tips that'll help keep all those soaring costs from giving your wallet a scare.
Are you a Halloween decorator?
No, my kids love to, but the candy holidays, just as a parent, are really they're high maintenance. But
that makes sense.
I'll pretend to enjoy it. We begin this hour though in Utah, where a growing manhunt is underway for the killer of conservative activist Charlie Kirk. Law enforcement officials released new surveillance video overnight. It shows a person they believe to be the shooter leaping off a college campus building shortly after that deadly shot was fired.
They are now asking the public for help, even offering a $100,000 reward. NBC News correspondent Morgan Chesky, he is there on the ground at Utah Valley University with the latest on the investigation.
Yeah, this new video really offers chilling insight into the actions of the shooter, because in it you can very clearly see this individual running along one of the rooftops here on campus as they made their escape after that fatal gunshot was fired. The footage was released late last night by authorities, and in attendance was FBI Director Kash Patel. Notably, officials took no questions, which, as of right now, are only growing as we approach 48 hours with a gunman still at large.
This morning, as the manhunt for Charlie Kirk's killer intensifies, authorities releasing this stunning new video of the alleged shooter taken just seconds after opening fire. Seen here running on a campus rooftop before jumping down from the building and running to a wooded area where he left behind a crucial trail of evidence.
He left some palm impressions. There's some smudges, some places we're looking to collect DNA. There's a shoe imprint where we believe the suspect is clearly identified as wearing Converse tennis shoes.
Authorities also unveiling a new batch of enhanced photos showing the person of interest in a sweatshirt and backpack. Police say they've recovered the murder weapon, a high-powered long gun. described by the New York Times as an older model Mauser 30 caliber bolt-action rifle. The manhunt still ongoing. The FBI director joining the press conference but not speaking as the agency continues the search. Kirk's remains personally escorted to his family in Arizona by Vice President J.D. Vance on Air Force Two.
Welcome home, Charlie. You didn't deserve it. May God bless your family.
Kirk's wife accompanied by Second Lady Usha Vance. While back at Utah Valley University, authorities continue to comb the campus for clues.
When you walked through that crime scene, what stood out to you?
You know, the accessibility. This is an open campus. The accessibility to that roof is fairly easy.
While his identity remains unknown, investigators say the alleged shooter arrived on campus Wednesday at 11:52 a.m., then climbed stairwells to the top of a building before moving across the roof to the shooting location, roughly 175 yards away from where Charlie Kirk took the stage.
We know what time the gunman arrived on campus.
Yes.
Do we know if he had the rifle with him when he did?
We believe he did. We believe it was with him the entire time, concealed.
Brandon Russin witnessed the horror, standing just feet away.
All of a sudden, my heart just dropped to my stomach, and I knew after seeing the graphic nature of that shot that it was real, that Charlie had been shot.
And this morning, Utah's governor crediting the public with helping investigators, saying that they have led them to about 200 interviews and thousands of tips that investigators are poring over, adding that when Kirk's killer is caught, they will be pursuing the death penalty. We'll send it back to you.
All right, National Law Enforcement and Intelligence correspondent Tom Winter is here with more on the investigation. And I just want to check with Sean in the control room. Should we ask Tom about that? The president is on Fox News this morning, and he is saying that they have somebody in custody. We know they've got 7,000 leads and tips from the public. It's been a couple of days. Again, the president has been sort of the lead on information about the Charlie Kirk assassination. So he is on Fox right now talking about this.
I mean, certainly, look, it's an FBI case. Would the president have knowledge of that? He would have knowledge of that. Officials just before coming on and speaking with you this morning did announce a press conference to take place later this morning. And so that's something that we do anticipate hearing more information shortly. That had not been a scheduled press conference, but yet they had done one at the same time yesterday. So it didn't immediately stick out to us. That's certainly a significant development. I'm not surprised, given the president's relationship with Charlie Kirk and the closeness, including of the FBI director. It is not a surprise to me that they would have allowed the president to make this announcement.
This is personal for him. They were friends. This is personal.
It is. It truly is personal for him. He spoke about it. If you listen to the president yesterday before taking off to come to New York City, obviously a solemn day with the 24th anniversary of 9/11, the president was very clearly, affected by it. Was not his usual kind of self and engaging with the press. Definitely more of a solemn tone from him. He is here in New York. He stayed overnight last night after attending that Yankee game and had been slated to give this interview to Fox News.
Of course, the number one question has been who did this, and then comes why did this happen? What is the motive here? How do investigators go about finding that answer?
I mean, the hope is that this individual talks to them, that there could be writings, certainly the phone. I mean, the phone is like your personal diary that you didn't even know you wanted to keep. So, that type of information that could be on their website searches, all of that will be part of the investigation. I would caution people in the instance of the first Trump assassination in Butler, Pennsylvania. We still don't know why Thomas Matthew Crooks did that. So sometimes it's not always possible. We know that this was clearly, and authorities have said it, a targeted killing of Donald Trump, of Charlie Kirk.
So they'll go through, they'll look at everything they can. They'll talk to people he knows. They'll trace his steps and try to figure out what a motive could be here.
Yeah, they're going to trace it back. If in fact they have him in custody, they've obviously gotten a tip as to where he was. They'll know where that is. And then, there's really a lot of, sometimes we think the investigation is all leading up to the charges. That's the case when you see a big federal indictment. They've done all the work. But even after that, there's always investigative work that's done. There's new leads, new information that comes in. In this case, you want to get this person right away, get them off the street. And there'll be a lot more investigative work that's done over the coming days, weeks, and months that will eventually culminate in this case being charged.
Tom, this event coupled with other things that we're seeing unfold across the country, whether they be these bomb threats at HBCUs across the country that we've been seeing, locking down campuses, and then things like scheduled events for members of Congress that they're saying, I'm not comfortable doing that. We have the president in town right now. What is this doing to law enforcement?
Yeah, so there's a couple of different channels here. One, there's been these swatting threats and these threats that have been called into universities across the country. That appears to be its own separate thing, unrelated to Charlie Kirk. That appears to be one individual that's doing that, obviously very disruptive, and so that's something that we continue to follow. With respect to what's going on with members of Congress, they've just seen what was a horrific assassination. Everybody's seen the videos. We know what happened. And now you're in a scenario of, like, what is the next thing? What is going to happen next in the political realm? If we find out what this person's motive is, if it's because they have a specific animosity, that might trigger somebody else to act. We've seen a lot of targeted violence this year. We've seen a fear of a contagion after we saw the targeted violence of the United Healthcare CEO. Now this is political. That ups the ante even more. So I think it makes sense in the near term till people can get a handle on the security situation and what's going on, obviously before going out there to speak. Long term, the threat to the republic is obviously quite high. If we're in a situation where members of Congress can't even interact with their constituents, that's also got law enforcement's concern. It does underscore the fact that it's not just a policing problem.
Issue number one, find and detain the suspect and then lower the temperature around the country. Tom Winter, thank you so much.
And as we were just discussing here, this growing number of lawmakers are now expressing fears for their own safety following the killing of Charlie Kirk. Our chief White House correspondent, Peter Alexander, takes a look at that and the reaction in Washington as President Trump blames the so-called radical left. Peter, good morning.
Good morning. The assassination of Charlie Kirk did not happen in a vacuum, but in an already overheated political climate with threats against public figures from both parties on the rise. Capitol Police tell NBC News its agents are on track to work through roughly 14,000 threat assessment cases this year alone. That's a nearly 50% rise over the year before. Some lawmakers are using this as a moment of reflection, others appearing to ratchet up their language.
This morning across the country, more fallout from the shocking assassination of Charlie Kirk, the conservative figure who wielded extraordinary influence in the Trump administration, despite being just 31 years old. The White House chief of staff reflecting on Kirk's importance.
From NBC News, this is a special report. Here's Savannah Guthrie and Craig Melvin.
Hi, everybody. We're coming on the air. President Trump just a few moments ago on Fox News announcing that to a high degree of certainty, they believe they have the shooter in custody responsible for the assassination of Charlie Kirk.
The president announcing that just a few moments ago on Fox and Friends. Authorities are about to share an update. Again, all of this coming just hours after officials released that new evidence. We saw a surveillance video of a man jumping off the roof. They announced they had recovered a weapon there in the woods as well. Morgan Chesky's been on the scene there in Utah since it started. Morgan, what can you tell us?
Yeah, Savannah, Craig, the president said in this interview that he believes it is a high degree of certainty that they have the right individual in custody, and he credits an individual close to this person of interest for recognizing them and then contacting law enforcement who at some point overnight were able to close in and take that individual into custody. Important to note that right now we have yet to hear authorities officially call this person a suspect. They remain a person of interest. However, just within the last few minutes, Savannah, Craig, we have heard from authorities that there will be a press conference held here on the campus of Utah Valley University in about 45 minutes. We can only anticipate that that is where this news will be officially broken. And it really was, as you mentioned, just hours ago that the law enforcement gathered here on campus, joined by FBI Director Kash Patel, where they released this footage showing this individual on top of a campus building, running across a rooftop, then lowering themselves down and jumping to the ground, where they ran off campus into a wooded area where authorities say they were able to recover that high-powered rifle that they believe that gunman used to fire that single fatal shot, killing 31-year-old Charlie Kirk, the father of two. Kirk's casket was flown back to Arizona alongside Vice President J.D. Vance and his wife late yesterday. But as this investigation has grown, authorities initially hesitated on releasing the the video, believing that they could have identified this individual on their own. But the governor was very clear last night in this press conference saying that the public has been absolutely vital in providing them with tips and leading them to potential interviews. And based on just the little that President Trump said in that interview, Savannah and Craig, it sounds like someone close to this individual recognized them from either the video and or the images that were released, contacted authorities, and that's what began this process in aiding investigators to close in on this person. We do not know where this took place. We do not know exactly when this took place. Those are all going to be crucial questions going forward, on top of perhaps the biggest question of all. Even though officials have called this a politically motivated assassination, we have yet to see any particular piece of evidence that could lend itself to a potential motive. All big questions in this press conference that, again, is happening in about 45 minutes here in Utah.
Right.
Savannah, Craig.
Morgan Chesky for us there on the breaking news again. President Trump announced moments ago that the suspected assassin of Charlie Kirk is in custody.
He announced it on Fox and Friends. He's just around the corner right now, live on the air, and said he had heard it just 5 minutes before coming on their set. We'll have more developments as they unfold. Most of you return now to today. This has been an NBC News special report.
You have just been watching a special report there with big news. As you just heard, if you were here, if you're just joining us, President Trump just announcing on Fox News, on the show Fox and Friends, that they do have this suspect in custody. They say it's a high degree of certainty. It is the person that they are looking for in the assassination of Charlie Kirk. Also, interestingly, on that show, the president revealing that for this particular person, someone close to the suspect helped turn him in.
Yeah, and this is so interesting because this has been a really fast moving with lots of developments over the past 2 days now. And there have been 2 other times the FBI has announced they've had somebody in custody who they've ultimately released. The president, though, on Fox and Friends saying that there's a high degree of confidence, that there are a certainty that they think they have the right person. But, you know, it has been 48 hours since Charlie Kirk's death, and a number of universities and political groups have gotten an influx of violent threats. At least 6 historically black colleges and universities placed on lockdown yesterday over what the FBI called hoax threats. The U.S. Naval Academy also issued a shelter-in-place order that ended with a midshipman being shot. NBC News Chief Capitol Hill correspondent Ryan Nobles is at the Naval Academy in Annapolis. Ryan, talk to us about just maybe the relief settling in where you are and in the nation's capital over these developments we're hearing about this morning.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of people asking questions about where the future of that investigation was going. And then across the country yesterday, we just saw a degree of tension that seemed to be at least somewhat connected to the political violence that we saw play out in Utah. Here in Annapolis at the Naval Academy campus yesterday, a midshipman mistook a member of law enforcement as a possible threat. That led to him getting shot. He is now in the hospital in stable condition. The Naval Academy, just one of several college campuses across the country that were dealing with unspecified threats, and that left many of these college campuses on a higher degree of alert. This morning, a string of violent threats putting universities nationwide on edge.
Attention. Lockdown. Lockdown.
Alarms ringing at the U.S. Naval Academy in Maryland, alerting the base to shelter in place.
All personnel are directed to lockdown. Seek cover and concealment immediately.
A source telling NBC News a former midshipman who'd been thrown out of the academy made anonymous threats on social media from his home, but used an online address that made it look like the danger was coming from within the base. Officials ordering a lockdown out of an abundance of caution. The source also telling NBC News a midshipman had been shot during the shelter in place after mistaking a member of law enforcement for a threat and hitting him with a training weapon.
It will be an ongoing challenge, not just at the Naval Academy, but the political leadership and in the workplace.
Hours earlier in Washington, D.C., Capitol Police responding to a bomb threat at the DNC headquarters. No explosives were found. But the threat, a sign of the growing tension surrounding politically driven violence in the country. These incidents echoed in schools across the nation Thursday. At least 6 HBCUs targeted by what the FBI described as hoax threat calls. At UMass Boston, unconfirmed reports of shots fired near a residence hall, resulting in a campus-wide lockdown.
Oh.
A large police presence seen swarming the university.
It's so scary. Like, you never would think that something like this would happen.
Authorities soon giving the university an all clear. The school's chancellor later writing in a letter, no evidence of any gunfire has been found. Now, an urgent warning to those on campuses nationwide to stay vigilant.
Listen to your alerts, pay attention to them, take them seriously until you're told it's all clear.
And in Michigan, the lieutenant governor there is confirming that there was an unspecified but verified bomb threat to his house. He thanked law enforcement for their quick action in dealing with the threat. Guys, back to you.
Ryan, thank you very much for your reporting on that, as well as this breaking news that we just got. President Trump saying on Fox and Friends once again that they do have the suspected shooter in custody. We have Morgan Chesky joining us now from the scene. He is on the ground at that university in Utah. Morgan, good morning. So we had seen quite a few developments in the past 24 hours in terms of the weapon being found, that video, and now we are hearing this information. What do we know at this point about this suspect in custody?
Yeah, details are few. We do know that according to President Trump, he was taken into custody at some point overnight. The president crediting someone close to this individual who either from the images released or from the video released by authorities recognized this person and alerted law enforcement who were able to move in. We don't know if this individual put up any resistance upon being taken into custody, but according to President Trump, as of this point in time, they are now with investigators who are planning to hold a press conference just in this building behind me in about 45 minutes. In attendance here will be FBI Director Kash Patel. Hopefully they take questions this morning. They did not last night. That's when they released some of this very telling video showing this individual running along the rooftop of one of the campus buildings just moments after firing the fatal shot that killed 31-year-old Charlie Kirk. And it was in that video you could see this person run to the edge, lower themselves, and then jump onto the ground. Authorities said that they were able to gather DNA evidence from the edge of the building, a shoe print from the ground, and then recover what they believe to be the murder weapon, a high-powered rifle in a nearby wooded area that they believe was discarded by this gunman. As it stands right now, we are still waiting to hear what, if any, motive this person had. We know we've heard officials call this a politically motivated assassination, and yet no evidence has really been brought forth that can speak to a direct motive here as to why this gunman opened fire on the conservative activist Charlie Kirk, killing him here on the campus of Utah Valley University. President Trump saying that he's still learning some of the details himself, so this is an incredibly fluid situation here, but I think it does go to show the amount of evidence authorities were able to gather in a relatively short time. The images that they released of this person of interest, seen in a sweatshirt, carrying a backpack, wearing Converse sneakers, walking up a stairwell here on campus. And then they coupled that with the video they released last night, just kind of building out this body of evidence they had on this individual. Initially, they were hesitant to release some of that information because they believed that they may have been able to identify them on their own, and they didn't want to tip off their work to this individual. But the governor of Utah last night making it incredibly clear that the public has been vital in helping them track down their man, saying that just within the last few hours or 48 hours or so, the public led them to conduct more than 200 interviews, and they received thousands of tips. And law enforcement has said that they've had more than 100 people on this from a state and a federal level actively working 24/7 to try and track down this individual. I had a chance to speak to one of the top lawmakers in Utah yesterday, the commissioner of the Department of Public Safety here. I asked, do we know for certain if this individual was working alone? He says that's certainly one of the things they're going to be digging into. Hopefully, now that they have this person in custody, there can be some crucial new details that can be brought to light in this press conference that, again, is happening in about 45 minutes in this building behind me.
Yeah, Morgan, so much of that video evidence and the stills of the suspect, the person of interest in the looked like a stairwell. So interesting. It looked unremarkable to many of us in the public, but the hope was among investigators, right, that somebody would see that person and know exactly who it was and reach out.
These images were incredibly telling in that it may not have seemed like we were able to ascertain much from them, but for someone who's very close to an individual, it doesn't take much for you to recognize, just by the side profile of a face or perhaps the way in which someone is walking. So all of that certainly contributed to leading authorities to this individual. The president saying in that interview that it was someone close to this person who tipped off authorities. That was certainly one of the primary reasons they put so much material out within the last 24 hours or so, because we were approaching about a 48-hour time period where this person had not been brought into custody. And I can tell you here in Orem, Utah, that in addition to the somber feeling of the loss, there was an incredible feeling of apprehension knowing that an individual capable of firing that one fatal shot, killing Charlie Kirk, was still out there somewhere. And again, the commissioner in Utah told me yesterday that at least as of that point, they did not know where that person was. Now, again, they were keeping likely many details to themselves, but there was a real uncertainty here that I think is now put somewhat to rest if, this person is indeed who authorities were after.
All right, we'll know soon with that press conference when they give us more details on what the developments are here.
That's right.
Thanks,
Morgan, stick with us just for a moment. We want to play for viewers who've been saying how a suspect is in custody. That is according to President Trump, and he made that announcement on the Fox and Friends television show on Fox News. We're going to play exactly what he said. Let's listen.
Yeah, I think we're in great shape.
Mr. President,
he's in custody.
Your suspicion was that he was radical left, and now you have more information.
I think that I don't want to go too far. I'd like to tell you some stories at how it happened, but essentially somebody that was very close to him turned him in. And that happens when you had some of those good shots. Somebody is going to say, whether it's a parent or whatever. I'd rather not say right now. They're going to announce it today, sometime later, probably talk about that. But somebody close to him turned him in. They said, whoa. It's interesting where we had very good pictures, but not great, not perfect. And when you look at it, what happened is somebody, and this happens a lot. It happened with the crazy Boston bomber. It happened with others. Somebody that's close recognizes even a little tilt of the head, which nobody else would do. And somebody that was very close to him said, that's him. And essentially went to the father, went to a U.S. Marshal, who was fantastic, by the way. And the person was involved with law enforcement, but was a person of faith, a minister. And brought him to a U.S. Marshal, who was fantastic. And the father convinced the son, this is it. And again, I'm always subject to be corrected, but I'm just giving you based on what I'm hearing.
Wow, some remarkable details there from the president. Morgan, what do you make of what you hear from the president? I mean, this is exactly what investigators wanted. They wanted that picture out so that somebody would just see, as the president said, the tilt of a head or something, some familiar marker that would lead to the person to be identified.
Right, some incredibly new details there. I would be very curious to know if what the president is saying is true. It sounds like someone recognized this individual and then worked with this individual's father to bring them to this U.S. Marshal, who then in turn, connected to the larger body of law enforcement here. That would certainly be a best case scenario, because clearly, if this individual is the one who fired that fatal shot killing Charlie Kirk, we know at this point what they're capable of. And we really did not know from authorities whether they were still considered armed and dangerous or not. Authorities did say that they recovered that rifle, and they did say that they believe this was an incredibly targeted attack, and that's why they didn't put this community on lockdown, because they didn't believe this surrounding area was at risk of another attack by the same person. But that is very telling in that it was somehow the images or the video that were released that tipped off this individual close to the person of interest that began this really domino effect to bring them into custody.
Morgan, as we now, it seems the suspect is in custody, or at least that this person is in custody. We will determine more information about who exactly this person is as soon as we can, and of course bring that to you. I know you're working on that. The next question, of course, becomes motive. Talk us through what you're hearing on the ground from investigators about how they go about something like that, especially now that they have someone in custody.
Right, they're going to be digging into the online history or any written materials left behind that this suspect may have, that may lend itself to what sort of political leanings they had, if this was indeed politically motivated, as many officials have already called it. And so that will certainly be the next step now that they have this individual into custody. When I spoke to the DPS commissioner yesterday, I did ask, have any search warrants been conducted on any residences that you're aware of? And he said, as of yesterday, there had not been. That will likely be changing very soon. And a search warrant can, give investigators access to a home, but also access to computer records, cell phone records, anything that could share additional insight into why this act was carried out. Guys?
Morgan Chesky, thank you very much for your reporting on this for us right now. We know all of this is just coming in the last few moments. Again, the president announcing on Fox News that there is a suspect now in custody, turned in by somebody who knew him after identifying features in this video. Morgan Chesky on the ground for us in Utah. You're going to stick around and you're going to keep us on any new updates that you receive. Thank you very much.
This is an NBC News special report.
We are coming on the air with breaking news this morning. President Trump announcing on Fox News, on the show Fox and Friends, that a suspect is now in custody. The shooter, believed to be the shooter in the assassination of Charlie Kirk. We have NBC News correspondent Morgan Chesky on the ground in Utah. He is there on site. Morgan, thank you very much for being with us. President Trump saying about this person of interest. What exactly do we know so far? Why are officials confident they have the right person?
That is a question we hope to ask here in a press conference, Savannah, in about 45 minutes in this very building behind me. And we know that FBI Director Kash Patel will be in attendance. It was just hours ago, late last night, that authorities released new video that certainly contributed to bringing this person into custody. And in the president's interview, he said some things that were very telling that we're going to be hopefully following up on to gain some clarity, saying that someone close to this person of interest recognized them either from the images or the video that had been released, and then reached out to the father of that individual, who then in turn, according to the president now, convinced this person to join them, and they went to a U.S. Marshal. Now, that is how, if I'm hearing the president correctly, he's laying kind of the timeline of events here. And that would certainly be a best-case scenario in that there was no resistance, especially, from an armed standpoint, with this person being brought into custody. Authorities have been very tight-lipped, either from keeping their cards close to the vest or simply because they didn't know very much about this person other than the images and the video that they shared. In this press conference, where we hope to learn more, we do know that state investigators will also be there. They've been working hand in hand with federal investigators since this shooting took place. In fact, I've been told that more than 100 law enforcement personnel have been kind of scouring the scene and the area and have been on the case to try to track down this person. But the governor making it very clear last night that the public was vital here. They needed the public's help, and it led them to conducting more than 200 interviews and fielding thousands of tips. And certainly all of those combined have led to, this person now being brought into custody. The president saying that he believes with a high degree of certainty that this individual is the person who fired that fatal shot, killing Charlie Kirk in broad daylight with thousands of witnesses and attendants as he visited this campus, Utah Valley University, the first stop in what was supposed to be a nationwide tour. Now, earlier, investigators had painted a grim timeline from surveillance footage where they spotted this individual arrive on campus at 11:52 a.m. And then using other camera angles, they were able to follow this person through stairwells and up onto a roof where they say he stretched out in a prone position. And then at around 12:20, just a few minutes after Charlie Kirk began fielding questions from the crowd, they say he fired a single fatal shot that struck Kirk in front of the crowd. Now, we do know that Kirk was rushed to a nearby hospital, but passed away soon after. As for the next steps of the person who pulled the trigger, that video showed them leaping off the building, and that was one of the videos released late last night. Guys?
And Morgan, it seems like one of the videos that made a big difference, knowing that somebody who seems to be familiar with the suspect is actually who alerted authorities. Morgan Chesky in Utah for us. Thank you so much. I want to bring in our national law enforcement and intelligence correspondent, Tom Winter. Tom has been all over this. You actually have some new information for us this morning.
Yeah, Savannah. So it is, as authorities described, an individual in their early 20s, 22 years old, from Utah, the person that is now in custody, believed to be the person who is the suspect. This individual, apparently a family member, saw the photos that have been put out there, the same photos that we're looking at right now, saw those photos, confronted their son, and then called police. At that point, he was taken into custody and right now is in the process of, they're obviously trying to talk to him. We don't know if they're talking to him. But to recap again, this suspect in the early 20s, 22 years old, from Utah, is in custody right now, believed to be the suspect after a family member saw the photos that we've been looking at now for the last 24 hours or so, confronted their son and said, look, you know, effectively, is this you? And at that point, there's a point where he's turned into police, and that's where the investigation stands. I think soon we'll be able to report to you a name on this individual. Obviously, we're in the process of starting to pour over social media accounts, LinkedIn pages, all that type of stuff to try and determine if anything's been posted by this person over the last several days, anything that could point to a motive. Sometimes people leave writings behind. Rarely they leave a manifesto behind. That'll all be part of the investigation. But to confirm the news that the President of the United States said himself, just in the last 20 minutes or so, it appears there's been obviously a major breakthrough here.
Absolutely. Tom Winter confirming that news for us. Again, an announcement that the president had made just a moment ago on Fox News. There is now a suspect in custody. New details there from our Tom Winter in his early 20s and turned in by someone who actually knew him. That information coming, of course, after that video and photos were put out of a suspect, a person of interest here. There's much more coverage ahead on our streaming channel, NBC News Now, and online at NBCnews.com.
All right, welcome back to Morning News Now. A morning of rapid developments in the search for a suspect who assassinated Charlie Kirk. What we know this morning is President Trump, went on Fox and Friends and said a suspect is in custody, effectively ending a two-day manhunt. You've seen the photos and the images that have been widely circulated of who the FBI thinks is responsible. And now we're told from the president that a suspect is in custody. We're awaiting a news conference in just the next half hour or so. But I want to bring in our Tom Winter, who's been following this story round the clock for the past couple of days. Let's reset here and bring our viewers up to speed with what we know this morning about the status of this investigation.
And what we know, if I'm looking down, it's certainly because you can imagine the amount of information that's starting to pour in. Look, the indication is that a family member confronted this individual in some way, might have been after they saw the photos that we've been looking at, the very same photos we're looking at right now, and apparently alerted police that this could be their son as the person who is responsible for this, potentially responsible for this. And right now, this individual is in police custody on a state charge at the moment. It appears that doesn't preclude federal charges. As you know, sometimes it's just easier to put a state charge down until you can get that federal paperwork signed. I know, excuse me, there's going to be a lot of people that are going to ask questions about, motive and what is this person saying and what have they found so far? Way too early in the investigation. just there's a belief based on the preponderance of initial evidence that they think that they have their person. And I think that's what gave the president the confidence to be able to announce this. Law enforcement thinks that it looks, as they say, it looks real good. In other words, it appears at the moment that this person is the person responsible for this shooting. A lot of work left to be done on the investigative side. A lot of work left to be done as far as digging into this individual and, in fact, confirming in the moment those charges are actually filed. But that's at least the initial indication. This may have been going on for the past several hours. Of course, it's right now just a little after 6:30 Eastern time, 6:30 a.m. local time there in Utah. But this individual, approximately 22 years old, from Utah. We don't know anything about whether or not this person has any prior contacts with law enforcement. That's all information we're waiting to get. But obviously, this is all developing very fast this morning, and we're getting in the information. As soon as we confirm it and feel confident with it, we're obviously bringing it to you.
22 years old from Utah, you think?
22 years old from Utah. That's the information that we have at this time. And we're in the process of going through this individual's social media accounts. Once we have a little bit more clarity on the name, we'll bring that to you.
Yeah, there have been a couple of arrests so far. They've 2 people of interest that they had brought in and then released. This looks like this is a higher level of confidence.
That's right. And I think that's predicated on the fact that a family member apparently noticed this individual. There was some sort of dialogue that occurred. And so I think that there's a difference. Obviously, police would be able to look at this person and say, you know, is this the person we've seen? They'd be able to match now a driver's license and be able to look at any sort of firearms registration. There's a lot of work. Once you have that name, the databases that law enforcement has can be very helpful in this case. And obviously, that's the type of information that
for so many of us in the public, we see these pictures and these videos, and the pictures in the stairwell in particular, and it's a very nondescript, average-looking person, but the idea law enforcement want to get those pictures out because it just takes one person to recognize some small aspect of the suspect and be able to identify them. Let's listen to the President of the United States on Fox and Friends when he was the one who revealed a suspect has been apprehended. Let's listen.
I think we're in great shape.
Mr. President,
and he's in custody.
Your suspicion was that he was radical left, and now you have more information.
I think that I don't want to go too far. I'd like to tell you some stories at how it happened, but essentially somebody that was very close to him turned him in. And that happens when you had some of those good shots. Somebody is going to say, whether it's a parent or whatever, I'd rather not say right now. They're going to announce it today, sometime later, probably talk about that. But somebody close to him turned him, you know, they said, whoa. It's interesting where we had very good pictures, but not great, not perfect. And when you look at it, what happened is somebody, and this happens a lot. It happened with the crazy Boston bomber. It happened with others. Somebody that's close recognizes even a little tilt of the head, which nobody else would do. And somebody that was very close to him said, that's him. And essentially went to the father, went to a U.S. Marshal, who was fantastic, by the way. And the person was involved with law enforcement, but was a person of faith, a minister. And brought him to a U.S. Marshal, who was fantastic. And the father convinced the son, this is it. And again, I'm always subject to be corrected, but you know, I'm just giving you based on what I'm hearing.
Again, the President of the United States making that announcement on Fox and Friends just moments ago. I want to bring in NBC News law enforcement analyst Jim Kavanaugh joining me now. Sir, law enforcement still calling this person in custody a person of interest rather than an official suspect. Do you know why that would be?
Yeah, because they've got to match the evidence to the killer before they can make a charge. So we might have happened here is, you know, the family member brings the information, and from the president's description, sounds like he brings the son to a marshal or a deputy U.S. Marshal, and maybe the son makes some admissions. And, you know, the president's talking about he's a man of faith, the father, and, you know, maybe the son, the suspected assassin, makes some admissions to the deputy marshal. At any rate, he's brought in, and we don't even know if this is local or in another state, but he's brought in, and he's being questioned. Now, what's critical is the investigators on the scene, they have to have evidence. You can have an admission, and that's great, and you're going to then further that out. But you want to take a palm print, which they said they had, and match it to him. And that can be done in a matter of hours. And if you can do that, then you can get a complaint, an affidavit by a detective or a federal agent that says, this is the man we want for this murder. Or if there's something on the rifle, a fingerprint on the rifle, or DNA, you've got to connect him. You've got to have evidence. It probably started with an admission. That's what it sounds like. So he's being questioned. They're trying to match that palm print, get the rapid DNA off the lab, and then so they can put that in their affidavits to the judge to say, this is the guy we want the murder warrant for, or the federal warrant for. It could go either way. I mean, Utah's got a clear-cut murder case here. I mean, they have the death penalty. That's a pretty clean case. It's not necessary to be a federal charge. I mean, they could want it to be a federal charge, but it's not necessary. And if it is a federal charge, you're going to have to, have other elements of proof that it was politically motivated, and or if he traveled interstate, and he bought the firearm from another state, we have interstate transportation of a firearm with the intent to commit a felony, which would be murder. And we use that charge in ATF a lot on these killers that would travel. So that could be added too. It's not a terrorism charge, but it's a federal charge. But the state has a good case here too. So, it could very well be the DA charges it.
Couple of days. It's been 48 hours. There have been two other persons of interest who were brought in, who were ultimately released. Until now, it seems like at least the president says they have a high degree of confidence that this is their guy. Tell us what happens next. I mean, really, the investigation has just begun here at this point.
Yeah, now you're going to get into, if this is the guy they believe it is, now they're going to get into all the forensics, matching him physically, like I said, fingerprints, DNA to that rifle. Also, if you have a family member, the first question is, does he own a Mauser rifle, or does the father own a Mauser rifle? Is it missing? Is it here? These questions can now be asked. Also, his computer, has he been tracking Charlie Kirk around the country, or searching his website, or trying to find out where he is? All that will be on searches on his computer and his hard drive. And of course, he could have his motivations on there, and he might have been talking to other Confederates about just his disdain for Mr. Kirk. There can be a lot of evidence like that can add to the case. And all that's well and good, but the critical part is whether he made an admission to the father or a deputy marshal, which he made an admission to a deputy marshal that he's the person. I mean, that's critical evidence right there. And then they can lay on the forensics, fingerprints, DNA, the rifle, if he owned it, or they can trace it now. They can backtrace it to him. There may be photographs, family photographs of him with the rifle if he's gone hunting or something.
Sure.
Or maybe they can find out where he acquired it if he admits to acquiring it. And he may talk, from what the president's saying, and, it sounds like he's, the description the president gave on the news was, they confronted him, and then they went to the deputy marshal. So, maybe he hung his head down. He's a young man and admitted it. And that's a confession. Even the word yes is a confession. So the prosecutors, would love that. And if he confessed to a deputy United States marshal, well, that's some pretty heavy evidence right there.
Let me ask you about the temperature, or I guess the threat level in the country at the moment. Members of Congress are concerned about some of their events, changing events, where they are, where they're going, and how they're, interacting with the public. You've had 5 or 6 historically black colleges and universities yesterday that had hoax threats and had to be shut down. You've got these big events like this on college campuses where this tragedy happened. How do we lower the temperature?
Well, the first and easiest thing we can do is the Attorney General and the President could release all the FBI and ATF agents that have been assigned to ICE for these many months. Release those guys back to, their normal duties, because these are the 2 agencies that interrupt killers and shooters and bombers and snipers. That's their remit. That's their job. And a lot of them have been pulled off to do ICE duties. And now, there's plenty of other agents out there to do ICE. They have the National Guard. They have all this other support from many other federal law enforcement agencies. So it's be critical now in this inflection point for the Attorney General, I think, and the President to reconsider those assignments. Put those agents back to what they do, because we don't have enough of them already, and we need them back doing that. Secondly, as far as Congress and political leaders, look, you can't hold these outdoor events. Outdoor events are very risky because you got to protect a wide area. An indoor event is much better. And then you can have security going into the event to protect from a handgun attack, because it's harder to bring a rifle into an event inside a building. And I would just say to all the political leaders in the country of every stripe, be very cautious, too, that tactics change from killers. They can go from being a sniper to being a bomber. And don't accept packages. Don't ever pick up or packages that are left on your doorstep or mailed to you or shipped to you if you didn't order it and you don't know what it is. Be very, very cautious of that. Have your events indoors. Put those FBI and ATF agents back on the job. And that's some small steps we can do.
All right. Jim Kavanaugh, NBC News law enforcement analyst. Thank you so much. Great expertise on a morning of rapidly changing developments. I want to go to our chief White House correspondent, Peter Alexander, now for the latest on all of this. Clearly, we're getting new information at a pretty brisk clip here. We've heard from the president on Fox News. Peter, we know that there will be a press conference soon. Talk to me about what your sources are saying about where we are now in this investigation into the assassin of Charlie Kirk.
Well, Christine, you talk about the fluidity, the fast pace of developments this morning. Just to give you a little of the timeline, I spoke to a senior White House official at about 9:46, so about 15 minutes before that. Those comments by the president that they believe they have the person responsible for shooting Charlie Kirk in custody. And I asked this individual, again, 15 minutes earlier, whether they were satisfied with the pace of this investigation, with the FBI's handling of the case. And they said, satisfied is not the word. We won't be satisfied until they get this guy. Well, 15 minutes later, we learned that the president, in his words, says they have got this guy. So it looks like, at least from what I'm understanding from these conversations, that something might have happened very quickly. I think there was a lot of concern late yesterday after a series of delays over the course of the day about when a news conference would take place in Utah. Initially, we were told it was because of a series of rapid developments that had been just taking place, that maybe they had the person they were looking for then. But when the announcement was made last night before the cameras, the Utah governor, the FBI special agent in charge, and others made it very clear that they didn't have this person. As the individual on the ground there from the FBI told our Morgan Chesky, they had no idea who he was at that moment. So that left the people of Utah and, frankly, the neighboring states anxious about his status, where this individual was at this time. I know this is a major relief if this is, in fact, the person. And we should note the FBI on two earlier occasions, as sources are reaching out to me as I'm speaking to you, the FBI on two separate occasions said they believe they had someone who could have been the shooter. One time they said, we think we have the shooter. That was from Kash Patel, the FBI director's social media. Turned out that they then said that person was interrogated and then released. Certainly the hope for all Americans, the family of Charlie Kirk and others, is that this individual that they have taken into custody is the person responsible for this shooting. So the next question, obviously, aside from the investigation, focuses on just this political climate and the safety of lawmakers and other figures, political and otherwise, in this environment right now. Christine, some of the data points are pretty remarkable as you consider this after this recent surge in political violence. You think about the attack this summer where a Democratic lawmaker in Minnesota and her husband were killed. The gunman literally coming up to their door. Gunshots, you can still see the bullet holes in the doorway of their home, the door of their home. The president being shot in Butler, Pennsylvania now. more than a year ago, the firebombing of the Democratic governor of Pennsylvania, Josh Shapiro's home during Passover earlier this year. There has just been a surge in political violence where the targets have been on both sides of the aisle. It doesn't discriminate in terms of who is targeted in these situations. And the Capitol Police gave us what was, I think, a remarkable piece of information. They anticipate that this year, by the end of the year, there will be what would be a record 14,000 separate threat assessment cases that they will be pursuing, looking into by year's end, focused on political figures, lawmakers in particular. That would be a nearly 50% rise over last year. So clearly the trajectory of this is not sustainable for a variety of reasons, not the least of which is no one wants to see anybody targeted, certainly doesn't want to see anybody killed, but there simply isn't enough security to go around and not the resources to protect all of these individuals. Some of the Republican and Democratic leaders in Congress, they have private details, but many other rank and file lawmakers, as we describe them, they don't have protective details. And some of them are now taking new positions and revisiting their plans. Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, of course, that's a very familiar name to a lot of Americans, the young Democrat, the charismatic young Democratic congresswoman from here in New York. She was scheduled to be traveling to Raleigh, North Carolina for events this weekend. She now says that she is not going to be attending those events. She said in an interview with reporters yesterday that as lawmakers, she in particular understood that there is some risk that you take when you accept this line of work, when you decide to represent your community, your district, but that the level of risk right now, she said, is just not okay, is too much. Separately, there's also a bit of a ramping up of the rhetoric in spite of a lot of the calls for cooling on all sides. And we've heard some of those calls from Democrats, some from Republicans. There has also been a bit of amping up of the rhetoric right now, with some describing those, including a Republican congressman, describing those Democrats, those on the left, as this lawmaker said it, as being evil, that their ideology is evil, which is going the opposite direction of what we're looking for, which is a real cooling down at this time. So I think there's a real desire for cooler heads to prevail. Traditionally, that leadership comes from the president. There has been some criticism, certainly from some Democrats, about the president's handling of this situation right now, because, of course, we still don't know the motivation, what motivated this shooter. Many people have speculated, but again, these things are often much more complicated than you may anticipate. And the president was, in his initial remarks from the Oval Office that were recorded and played only hours after the shooting, blaming the radical left right now. Yesterday, he again blamed the radical left, but later said that Charlie Kirk's message was one of there not being, of nonviolence, of respecting others, and a bigger focus on compassion and love. So hopefully it's that message that will prevail.
You've listed a bunch of different acts, you know, these just shocking acts of political violence. There's so many, even more than we were listing here. You know, Nancy Pelosi, when she was the Speaker of the House, her husband was attacked with a hammer in his own home. The president has had 2 assassination attempts. So it definitely appears to be unhinged violence that crosses party lines.
Peter, I think it's also, Savannah, I think it's also significant here that 2 of the major updates we've received on this ongoing investigation that has captivated so much attention have come from the president directly, right? The fact that Charlie Kirk passed away due to his injuries, as well as this morning on Fox News saying we now have a suspect in custody. Talk about that for us, Peter, as our chief White House correspondent, just the level of involvement that he's had here and what that sort of says about the relationship.
Well, I think it tells you as much about Donald Trump and the way he views the presidency as anything, that he views himself as the sort of chief communicator of the message when it comes from his administration, in this case, when it comes from federal law enforcement, rather than having what would be traditional, a statement you would think as soon as they have a suspect in custody that would be released on the ground there in Utah from either the FBI or local law enforcement. the statement ultimately was delivered by the president himself when he was sitting on set alongside the Fox and Friends crew, which frankly is only a short distance from where we are here in the middle of Manhattan right now. So that speaks, I think, volumes about sort of the way the president views his role right now. I just want to pull back the curtain a little bit further on all of this and just talk about, again, this climate and the unique responsibility that a president of the United States has at this time. Just consider all of the sort of frightening threats, bomb threats and others that we've seen on campuses around the country in recent days. There was at the Democratic National Committee headquarters in Washington, D.C. yesterday, a bomb threat, a bomb scare, as it were, where many on site were forced to leave the building so that they could secure it, make sure that there was no concern there. Turns out that there was not. Several historically black colleges, HBCUs, as they are described, having some threats as well, forcing some lockdowns there. We've, over the course of the day, been speaking about another situation that took place at the Naval Academy in Annapolis, Maryland, as well. The lockdown sirens sounding there with fears that there was a threat or a shooter on campus. So, this is, in the words of one lawmaker, this is a dangerous course the country is on, in this individual's words, a dangerous path right now, and not one that's sustainable. As it relates to the president, we do know that he is scheduled, at least from my most recent conversations, to travel overseas as planned next week. He's supposed to have a visit with King Charles in the United Kingdom. But when he spoke to reporters yesterday, he said it was his intention. He wasn't announcing the funeral, but he said it was his intention that he would be attending the funeral of Charlie Kirk to take place in Arizona next weekend. We haven't had any specifics about exactly where there it would take place and when, but it would make sense that that would happen in Arizona, where Kirk had been living.
For those of you who are just tuning in and getting up to speed here, a lot of developments this morning. A suspect, we're told, by the President of the United States, a suspect is in custody in the assassination of Charlie Kirk. Let's listen to what the president said on Fox and Friends just about an hour ago.
I think we're in great shape.
Mr. President,
he's in custody.
Your suspicion was that he was radical left, and now you have more information.
I think that I don't want to go too far. I'd like to tell you some stories at how it happened, but essentially somebody that was very close to him turned him in. And that happens when you had some of those good shots. Somebody is going to say, whether it's a parent or whatever, I'd rather not say right now. They're going to announce it today, sometime later, probably talk about that. But somebody close to him turned him in. They said, whoa. It's interesting. We had very good pictures, but not great, not perfect. And when you look at it, what happened is somebody, and this happens a lot. It happened with the crazy Boston bomber. It happened with others. Somebody that's close recognizes even a little tilt of the head, which nobody else would do. And somebody that was very close to him said, that's him. And essentially went to the father, and went to a U.S. Marshal, who was fantastic, by the way. And the person was involved with law enforcement, but was a person of faith, a minister. And brought him to a U.S. Marshal, who was fantastic. And the father convinced the son, this is it. And again, I'm always subject to be corrected, but I'm just giving you based on what I'm hearing.
Again, that was President Trump just a little while ago, a short while ago this morning, announcing that suspect in custody on Fox News. Information and reporting we have also now matched here at NBC News. We've had our chief White House correspondent, Peter Alexander, with us talking us through this. We are also now joined by NBC News correspondent Morgan Chesky. He is on the ground in Utah and has been following these developments. Morgan, since the last time we spoke with you just a short while ago, what new information have you learned? Actually, we are having some technical difficulties reaching Morgan. We'll bring him back in shortly. Peter, I hope that you are still with us. If we could just go back to what we just saw there on Fox News. So the president announcing this, again, we have now confirmed this, NBC News ourselves. Tom Winter, in touch with law enforcement sources, confirmed that same information. But a few key things there. Of course, the fact that there's a suspect in custody. And then what we've been discussing is the fact that it was somebody who actually identified, based on that picture, based on the videos, It was pointed out to us earlier before, it could be something as simple as just a movement that the person makes, a tick in kind of the way that they move their neck, they walk, that type of thing, that could make someone aware, hey, I might know that person, the importance of getting these images and videos out to the public, Peter.
Yeah, well, I thought that was striking yesterday. Consider that they initially didn't put a photo out.
Right.
The FBI didn't, which at the moment they said that they didn't believe in the fact that they needed to do that just yet, which gave the indication to most people who were watching that they felt pretty good that they knew who this person was or knew where they were going to be able to find them. Clearly something then changed where they put the photo out broadly. And then yesterday, after hours passed, they put out more video of him, as you saw, running across the roof and jumping off the side onto the grass where he disappeared into the woods and ultimately deposited his gun there, at least according to law enforcement. So it was obvious that law enforcement viewed an urgency in trying to keep information in the public eye, to give new details, new video, to maintain the sort of level of interest nationally in this situation here. I think one thing that's going to be interesting, I'm going to be curious to find out, is when they took this individual into custody, because as the president said, he just found out about it about 5 minutes before coming on the air. The news conference last night happened at about 10 p.m. Eastern time. So the presumption would be that it would have happened just before the president got on the air. But if it happened anywhere in the middle of the night or maybe even late last evening, I think a lot of people would be curious why that announcement did not come sooner and why they wouldn't say that to give some peace to those in those communities immediately afterwards. So I think that's just one thing to keep an eye on as we wait to learn more information from law enforcement. Our expectation is we will be hearing from them about 25 minutes or so from now. Another thing that was striking about the president's comments, candidly, as we talk about the sort of unique role this president plays in public life and discourse and, frankly, all things across all platforms, it was remarkable to hear the president say, don't hold me to this, or I'm not certain. I can't say with total accuracy about this. We'll have to make sure it's all accurate. That's not normally the language that presidents use. Very rarely do presidents speculate about these situations or sort of, just float the best information that they believe. Usually it's based in fact so that none of it can be,
Right.
can be questioned, which was one of the issues, I think, initially yesterday when Kash Patel, the FBI director, had said, or maybe the day before, I can't keep track anymore, said that they believed they had the guy in custody and ultimately had to turn around and change that message. That's not the way law enforcement likes to work. They don't like to put out information that ultimately is debunked or wrong or misleads, because it undermines, what the president himself and others say is the credibility of these agencies, and all members of the Trump administration have insisted their job is to return credibility to some of these agencies that he has previously criticized.
Yeah, this is the third person of interest that the FBI that has identified. The first two were like, oh, you're right. Usually it's very methodical and there's almost an absence of information until they're very sure. But the president really out there wanting to let people know that they think they have somebody in custody. Peter, thank you so much.
We thank you for watching. And remember, stay updated on breaking news and top stories on the NBC News app or watch live on our YouTube channel.